Today we begin our midday broadcast. I was hearing the song, the old chorus, as the deer pants for the brooks of water, our hearts pant after you, O God. And this was the sense that came up, that the Lord is the king among the deer, soft and so vulnerable. And how is he going to overcome the predators? How will he help us to overcome the predators? Everybody is fighting for the water spouts. So this is the sense I got: as the deer pants for the water brooks, so my soul pants for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? Whenever we thirst and hunger after God, that thirst will win the battle. And immediately we are transported into God's presence, and God's presence transported into us. Whenever there is a water spout of God, when there's a springing in the heart of God's people, God appears. So there's a reciprocal relationship. Psalm 42 verse 2, my soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? So our thirst for God takes us before the Lord. This is the great and good story. This is the strength of our life. Then I saw that the Christian who is hungering and thirsting for righteousness, he gets clarified, he gets clear, he is purified, he shall be filled. And that wins the battle, goes on in the world with cravings, ragings, offense, anti-God, all this hot stuff that goes on. Desertifying the atmosphere, rarefying the air, no oxygen, no breath, can't breathe, no mercy, injustice. All that is taken away, not by protests on the road, not by protest on social media, but when Christians hunger and thirst for righteousness, and that well begins to become a spring of life in your city, in your workplace, amongst your neighborhood, in your home. Home change first, isn't it? In your work field. And you become a patch of green. And they say, in a parched land, how are you green? We say, because of the fountain of God. God has put a fountain in me. And what brought the fountain? The hunger and thirsting after God. That defeats the craving of pollutions. You know the kind of thirsts that go on in the world, the cravings. Many of them have come to a standstill. Many. And in our nation there's a very sad situation that those who have been involved in the sex industry, they have no more jobs. They are pleading for some mercy, some clemency, some food and clothing and some help. It's a tragic thing. So the Christian with the fount of God. And the Lord said, I will bring the fountains of Zion in you. All my fountains are found in thee, O Zion. Psalm 87. Then the rivers of Babylon shut up. They are defeated when the fountains of Zion well up in the Christian, well up in the church. They will say, church is the place we want to be. We have heard there are fountains of living waters. And we will be a well-watered garden, that is Isaiah 58. And we will be made fat in our bones, so to say, healthy. And divine health will flow. Health into our finances, health into our physical body, health into our relationships, social relationships, economic relationships, a new avenue, venture. You become God's fountain. And people say, what is it that hangs around you? We feel it's all green around you. The good pleasure of the Lord is with you. Yes, my soul thirsts for God. That's where it begins. Thirsting for God defeats the surroundings. When shall I come and appear before God? God appears when there's a thirst for God. That's how revivals came. There was an epicenter of a night when the revival came, epicenter of the revival. When a few thirsted so much after God, God came through. Yes, these things I remember, and I pour out my soul within me. For I used to go along with the throng and lead them in the procession to the house of God. So when we are hungering and thirsting after righteousness, God's righteousness, and the fountain is flowing, and earth around us is getting green, people will say, tell us, what is it that's happening in the house of the Lord? This is how in revival times, house of the Lord became the center of the city. We remember Welsh revival, when Evan Roberts and his friends prayed through that night in the morning, people began to arrive, and the priest said, come, come. People have started arriving. But they were praying through that night and morning. God sent a signal throughout the city. Swansea, come to the Little Baptist Church. Yes. When we thirst for hunger, and they were just 20-year-olds, young men who thirsted, and a band of them who thirsted, and there were some ladies also who thirsted after the righteousness of God. These things I remember. There will be a procession back to God, a fountain in the house of God, and the Song of Songs has Solomon's gardens from Bethlehem, which had such a wonderful well. And David in time of battle said, get me some water from the well of Bethlehem. Then of course he later poured it out as a drink offering to the Lord. Yes, what do you say? Are we getting faith today? That the fountain of God in us, maybe the mirror that got healed, maybe the waters of Jericho that had a pot of salt and got healed, maybe the rock of Rephidim that has spoken to the difficult situation, hard situation, then the water began to flow. You have so many allegories from so many places in the redemption story, redemption history, with the voice of joy and thanksgiving, a multitude keeping a festival. Yes, I hope in God, for I shall again praise Him for the help of His presence. So when, one more time, Psalm 42:1, as the deer pants for the brooks of water. Jesus Christ is King deer, so gentle. How will He overcome the predators? Will they throw us out of water spots? No. Out of God, nobody can throw us out of God's water spots. My soul thirsts. That's the secret. Then, when shall I come and appear before God? When my soul is so thirsty, God appears in my workplace. God appears in my area. God appears amongst my friends. God appears in my profession. God appears in my business lines. Fountain, fountain, fountain. And it's like the fountain that came out of the throne of God, flowed through the eastern gate of the city, and it began to heal the marshlands out there. And trees of life began to come up, a fruit for every month, and leaves for fruit for every season, leaves for the healing of the nations. Do you believe that that little fountain in you, world can't overcome it, world can't pollute it, the fountain, your life a fountain for God, God stirring up the deep passions of God in your heart, that overcomes the world. What do you think of God's battle strategy? Believe in? Has He ever failed even with one of His strategies? The fountain strategy. And the garden will be green around you. People will say, what is your secret? Our businesses are very difficult. How are you sustaining? How are you having new avenues? You will say, it's God, it's God, it's God. God bless you. God keep you. The fountain of God keep flowing in you.